So I know what y'all probably thinking.
She's got that nasty women's disease.
So what is RA? RA stands for rheumatoid arthritis, and it is a chronic inflammatory disorder that usually affects small joints in the hands and feet. It is a long-term illness that causes swelling in the lining of your joints. It is caused by your body attacking itself, so that makes it an autoimmune disease. This video, I'm just going to discuss the signs and symptoms I had prior to diagnosis. So starting actually some years ago, what I didn't recognize then as being signs. When I would go to sleep in the middle of the night, I would get like pins and needles, you know, that staticky feeling you get from sitting on the toilet too long in your legs. And I just thought that, oh, I slept on my elbow. On my elbow. I slept wrong. Something went numb. So over the years, I bought all these pillows and different things to kind of just stay comfortable, and I would just adjust. So that was the first sign, and then during my first year of being a gym girl, I'll say around August 2023, I had learned how to do pull-ups. That was one of my goals for my fitness journey. By August, I was able to do, I think, at least 4 consecutive, which is impressive. I'm proud of it. Anyway, but I noticed after doing those a while in August that sometimes my inner elbows would kind of feel wonky, like not necessarily pain, but you know when something isn't feeling the way it's supposed to. And telling my boyfriend slash trainer, and he was like, nope, cut him out. We'll modify it with something else. We'll switch it out. But it sounded like tennis elbow. And then at one point we thought maybe my, certain parts of my muscle groups has to catch up. Like sometimes the tendons and stuff are weaker. So, yeah, I did go lighter with certain exercises in the meantime. But then November, Thanksgiving, we were going to see his family out of town, and we stopped at his mom's house. And on the way there, my right hand, just a few fingers, they just got super stiff and just pain, and I couldn't move them all of a sudden. And it was the oddest thing. I don't know. I wasn't doing anything in particular. I do work with my hands, and I had been working previously throughout that week. But I was just like, if I had to drive, I wouldn't have been able to. He was already going to drive, but absolutely couldn't drive if I was the driver. But his mom, when we got to her house, she was like, it might be carpal tunnel. And she had some topical pain reliever foam and roll-on that she put on for me. And she was like, try to keep it warm. When I would put something warm on my hands, it would help. So she gave me, this is November, I live in Cleveland, so it's cold. And she gave me a glove, a knit glove to put on. And the oddest thing, by the time we got to the destination and had dinner, the pain was gone. I was back to my normal. So I did in that moment, okay, let me message my primary care doctor. And I scheduled an appointment. And because things went back to normal, I didn't think it was urgent. So my next appointment was scheduled for initially like December 17th, something like that. But then December 7th, so this is not even 2 weeks from Thanksgiving, I woke up in the middle of the night and my whole left side was numb. And it was a weird type of numb where I couldn't bear weight on my left side, like stand up, but I could feel pain in all of my joints. I could barely lift my arm. I couldn't close my hand. It was the scariest thing. So I call her my auntie mom. I call her because she's a registered nurse. And she's like, you need to call EMS because it sounded like stroke symptoms. And I'll fast forward through them when EMS arrived, because that experience was awful. Some malpractice stuff, basically. But They did a full workup, they gave me MRIs, CAT scans, x-rays, blood work, the whole shebang, and they couldn't pinpoint what was going on with me. They sent me home and told me, they referred me to neurology. So I scheduled my appointment with neurology, and that was the next step. And then from that point on, every week, it's either would be my shoulder would be really stiff, or my elbow, it would move around. And not knowing what it was, I would just go lighter in the gym. I would do cardio days more often. When I saw the first I have two neurologists. My first neurologist in January, at that point, it had been in both shoulders, my elbows, literally everywhere your body has a joint. I have felt discomfort, but it was the most debilitating in my hands. There would be times where I couldn't bend literally, this would be the most that I can make a fist. But it will also have pain in the joints, like a pulsing pain, fiery almost, sometimes tingling, but mostly in my hands. And I noticed that when I worked less, they didn't hurt as much. So I started to try to wean down how many clients I would take in a day. In the meantime, the first neurologist ruled out stroke. They said my numbers look good. My whole left side going numb. Everybody was thinking stroke, and they wanted to make sure it wasn't mini strokes, anything of that. But they were saying, no, everything looks great. My MRIs, everything looked good. But they wanted to also do a EMG and a nerve conduction. And my primary care doctor wanted to do more blood work in between. So it wasn't until my EMG that they saw that I had a possible pinched nerve and mild carpal tunnel. And when I told my neurologist about my shoulder, the day I met him, the second one, this was in March. That was only my second time seeing a neurologist. That was the soonest they had available, from January to March. But he told me to go to my primary care doctor and see if he can assist me with my shoulder, because he thought maybe my shoulder hurting that day had something to do with an injury. It didn't. It didn't at all. It ended up, my primary, he had got ordered x-rays. It was fine. By the time I made it to my primary that care doctor, it had actually moved to the other side, because remember, it moves around. So he thought that was odd. He was like looking at my hands, as I was telling him, my hands is where it really is debilitating and hurts the most. And he's like, I'm going to do some more blood work. He said, this time I'm going to test you for rheumatoid factor. I'm like, rheumatoid? I'm thinking, that sounds like that old ass, that arthritis?
Grandma's hand.
He's like, yeah. My rheumatoid factor came back 24. A normal range is between 0 and 15. So according to my PCP, that's not alarmingly high, but for someone that's 32, it is. That led me to finally getting a referral to a rheumatologist. So my rheumatologist was scheduled, the soonest I could get in was May. Unfortunately, my braces, it took me having to be hospitalized again for them to speed the process up. I ended up having to go to the ER twice, and the last time being just this past Sunday, the 21st. And I have never been in that much pain in my life, and I've had a child. I had a regular day earlier in the day, woke up pain-free, and I went to the gym. And by 11, my hands, they just felt like they were burning. And I just thought, okay, let me ice them. And it just got hotter. Like my hands got hotter. And it got to the point where I needed help. My sister saved me. I was able to walk to her car. But after that point, I was immobile. I couldn't walk, couldn't move any of my limbs. I couldn't move my hands. All I felt, but oddly, I wasn't numb. I had nothing but pain. And it got worse. It got worse. Just to explain how sensitive my sensations were, them putting a blanket on me while I was in the waiting area. When I say screaming at the top of my lungs, like that's how much pain I was in, just from a little thin sheet being laid over the top of me. Everything was in excruciating pain. I remember begging the doctors, like, just cut my arms off, because the pain never stopped. There wasn't like contractions, like, oh, to go away and come in waves. It was constant. It just stayed, and it only would get worse when things would touch me, or if they tried to lift something. It was awful. It was traumatizing. There's no other way for me to say it. I am still shaken up by the experience. It's terrible. I was on some heavy stuff. It was doing nothing, and nothing helped until they gave me through IV anti-inflammatory. So that explains a lot too. But my numbers, one of my blood work tests, I don't speak medical terminology. It jumped from 84 to 443 in 2 days. My rheumatologist had just saw me the Friday prior, and my rheumatoid factor, just from when my primary care doctor did it to when I saw my rheumatologist, not even a month later, it went from being a 24 to now 37. There were some other tests that they did, but what my rheumatologist explained to me is that the numbers that I have, it's only present in people who have rheumatoid arthritis. So I'm not excited to have a diagnosis that's not, but I'm one of those people that would rather have answers than to not. So that's what got me to my diagnosis. We've discussed treatment, but yeah, I went from just some numbness, tingling here and there, to what I thought was tennis elbow, to, oh, it's just carpal tunnel, rest your hands, to having a whole autoimmune disease. So that is my story. It's not a fun one, but I feel like I don't see enough of people who look like me or my age or that are in great health, in great shape, talk about it, because I had never heard of this. And I'm sharing my story because it may help somebody, or it gives me something to look back on in my journey of trying to get healed, because I do believe that I can get rid of this. So until next time, thanks for listening.